So we've got a Vario F XXL Klima, and we're going to talk about the wiring that comes with the seat for seat heat, and also the wiring for Klima, which is seat heat plus active ventilation. First, we'll go over the seat heat specific parts of the wiring, which will be the same for a seat with just seat heat. And then we'll talk about the sub-harness that's added on for the ventilation fans on the Klima models. So when you open up the seat, you'll see the wiring is a wire harness that's prefabricated and tied to the bottom of the seat, just like we see right here. So we'll start by snipping the zip tie so we can pull that apart and take a look at the individual components. So the seat heat or Klima wiring is designed as a standalone system so that it can be installed in a wide variety of vehicles. So we can take a look at these individual components and describe what you'll find when you're unpacking your seat and getting ready to install. So this portion here is the wiring that will connect to the vehicle. There's a red wire to connect to 12-volt power. We recommend switched power to save your battery if it's accidentally left on, and a black wire to connect to ground. There's an inline fuse on the power wire to protect this circuit, and a connector here where it plugs into the rest of the harness. So with this Klima seat, we've got two switches. If your seat has just seat heat, you'll have a single switch. So let's take a look at the heat switch here to start. Got a round switch with 3 positions, off, low, and high. There's a connector here that leads to the rest of the wiring harness. And this switch can be mounted in a variety of locations of your choice, whatever works best for your vehicle. If you've got the Klima seat, you'll have a second switch for the ventilation fan, another round switch with 3 positions, low, off, and high, with an optional extension on either of these for extra length if needed. So there's a couple of connectors tying this to the rest of the harness. So I've cut one of the zip ties on the bottom of the seat so we can better see the wiring here. Just did that for the purposes of the video. You won't need to cut that during your install. You can leave that tied together. So you'll notice this blue connector here. That is what connects the Klima sub-harness on a Klima seat to the heat harness. If your seat has just seat heat, you'll have part of this connector. It's not tied to anything. That's perfectly fine. You can leave it there. That's the way it's supposed to be. You don't need to connect it to anything with just seat heat. So the other thing I'd like to point out is this relay. You don't need to do anything with it. I just like to explain its function. It changes the way the power is routed through the harness to switch between low heat and high heat. It doesn't serve a protection function like some other relays in automotive systems. It's just used for switching between low and high. Another thing that's very important to note is that the wiring needs to be someplace where it's secure, but it's not going to get strained or pulled taut or damaged. Keep in mind that the seat can move, so as you're doing your wiring, you'll want to make sure you've got enough slack for the seat to move through its range of adjustment, slide forward and back. Check this carefully before finalizing everything. Zip ties can be useful for tucking this out of the way. You'll also want to make sure it's not going to get caught in the sliding rails or the swivel if you have a van with a swivel. So keep it out of the way, but not so tight that it's going to get pulled and strain or break. If you've purchased your seat from Tolerance Stack for select Toyota models, you'll see a Toyota thermistor, which we've already installed in the seat, that's used to connect to the harness with the additional parts supplied by Tolerance Stack.